pulled up the 2016 clip of Donald Trump doing his so much winning. His whole riff is like, we're going to win on economics. We're going to win on military. He says that. We're going to win on military. We're going to do so much winning. You're going to say to me, Mr. Trump, please, we're just kind of bored and sick and tired of all the winning. Maybe let us lose once in a while. That's what Joe Biden is. In 38 special elections this year, Democrats are outperforming the partisan lean by plus 10. Hello, everyone. Welcome to The Next Level. I'm JVL here with my best friends, Sarah Longwell and Tim Miller of the Bulwark. We are recording on Ash Wednesday.
You're showing me up with my mother with those ashes on your forehead. Sorry, Mom. I should have scraped something on there. That's actually the whole it's in Leviticus. The reason you go to receive ashes is to show up your friends. It says right there, and Moab said to Sheab, make sure the left hand can see what the right hand is doing. Oh, okay. I don't want to turn this into a religious thought that was
thing.
A masturbation line. I don't know. It's been a while since I've been in grammar school.
Last night, special election in Long Island, New York 3rd. It was another one where everybody was chomping at the bit so that we could finally hit the panic button on Joe Biden. There was going to be another Democratic getting wiped out on immigration so we could hit the eject button on Joe Biden. Oh, we just won again. Oh. Another one. So much winning.
JVL's just on the team.
So much winning. No, I mean from the Democratic side, right? You're a Democrat, you're like, oh, we won again. This is, I pulled up the 2016 clip of Donald Trump doing his so much winning. And his whole riff is like, we're going to win on economics. We're going to win on military. He says that. We're going to win on military. We're going to do so much winning. You're going to say to me, Mr. Trump, please, we're just kind of bored and sick and tired of all the winning. Maybe let us lose once in a while. That's what Joe Biden is. In 38 special elections this year, Democrats are outperforming the partisan lean by plus 10, according to our friends at 538. And last night, Tom Suozzi beat the MAGA Suozzi.
Yeah,
Suozzi beat the MAGA.
You obviously
crazy
don't watch
person.
cable news. CNN had like a 19-person panel last night analyzing this, so you would have had the pronunciation right.
By plus 8. Yeah, just plus 8. Another sick and tired of winning. Tim?
Which is a 16-point swing.
Yeah.
Right? Like Santos won by 8, maybe even a little bit more.
So this is back to like 2020. This is, back to what it looked like when Biden was at the top of the ticket.
Sorry, Tim, go ahead.
Go ahead. Tell me what you guys think.
Well, I mean, you can overanalyze all these things. And so I think there are two main things that I would take away. One, which is something that we hit every time here, but it's important to keep hitting, which is that the new Dem coalition is very good for specials. So I don't know how much it tells us about general elections yet, because the most excited people to vote are the people that are highly engaged and don't want the country to descend into autocracy. And so they're turning out in these special elections. And so that happened again. And I don't know, maybe Sarah, you can add on to some of the ramifications of that. I will also say this. Suozzi, I think there's some limits to what you can read from messaging strategy. I think a lot of this is national narrative. New York is such an expensive district. Like there were advertisements, as you said, JVL. You saw some during Jeopardy, so it's not like that there were no. It's not so people were able to see the messaging. But Suozzi leaned in on immigration, and I think it's a lesson for Biden now that this bill has collapsed. That you can't just wish it away. And Liz Smith, who is our friend of the pod, and wrote that like in 2022, in the Santos race, the Democrats kind of ignored crime, which was the hot button du jour then, and just tried to make it about abortion and just didn't talk about the crime in New York City, and that didn't work. And here we are this time, 2024. Suozzi really leaned into immigration, the migrants that were coming to the city, how he had a plan to address it, wanted to address it, is not part of the far left, and I think that's something that Biden's going to have to do too, looking ahead to this year. So those are my two main takeaways.
But Tim, what is Biden going to say? Like, I did this really hardline immigration bill, and the Republicans refused to pass it.
He's going to have some. He's going to have to do some executive orders too, and that and a couple of actions. He's going to have to do both of those two things.
Sarah, what do you think?
So let me just add one thing to what Tim was saying, because this is really true. And it's one of the reasons you don't want to overinterpret the specials versus the national elections. Number one, a lot of it comes from the political realignment that's been going on, right? So these red dog Democrats, which are like the never Trumpers that are now voting Democrats, they tend to be college educated suburban voters, a little bit older, and they show up to vote all the time. And they're highly engaged. And so one of the things that Democrats picked up in the swap, where they lost a lot more sort of non-college educated white voters, but they picked up these college educated suburban voters, that is a good swap for them in special elections. It is less good for them in national elections that include more low info voters, which is why you shouldn't overinterpret this in terms of what it means for Joe Biden in the national election coming up in 2024. That said, I was struck by the polling and how close it was, and how 8 points is not a small margin of victory. And thank you, Sebastian. Santos won it by 7.6 points in 2022. So yeah, you're looking at almost a 16-point swing. I've seen a lot of people remarking on the fact that there was a storm, but it doesn't look like turnout among Republicans was down. It looks like plenty of Republicans turned out. It's just that they voted for the Democrat, right? These sort of right-leaning independents, these are the people. And I just wonder, and, I just all caveats about overinterpreting, but I'm interested in what you guys think. Every time there's one of these special elections, it feels like there is a bit of a primal scream against Trump. And the idea that this was there were all kinds of reasons why this was a weird election. Santos was super high profile and a crazy candidate. So some of this is backlash against Santos. So I don't want to
Long
overread
Island
that.
is also not particularly representative of what other types of people that are in other swing districts.
That's right. All of those things. And they're right. Like I said, there was a snowstorm, although didn't a Republican PAC pay to have them plow in Republican districts to make sure Republicans could get out? Okay. Doesn't it feel though the margins are just so big in some of these specials, like the Wisconsin Supreme Court race? It's not just that the Democrat won in Wisconsin, it's the margin was very large. And so you've got to wonder, and I have been wondering if how good and representative the polling is. I've been wondering for a while if, remember in 2016, the polling was all off because nobody could seem to find the Trump voters. And there were all these conversations around, boy, do they hide from pollsters? Do they not want to tell? Do they not want to admit it? They seem to be perfectly fine now finding Trump voters. And I'm not sure they're not oversampling them to some degree because they don't seem to be capturing in any of these special elections just how large the margins are against them, including in 2022. Same thing. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's hard to gauge turnout in these things, right?
No, it is.
So gauging likely voters, that's a lot of, you're making a judgment call. You're asking people. Yeah. Some people do the thing where it's rate on a scale from 1 to 10 how likely you're to vote, and some do the very likely, somewhat. Then you got to judge, are the somewhat likely people, do we include them? You know what I mean? And so there's a lot of math nerds that figure this stuff out. But I think that is a challenge in these elections, and whereas in the Trump race, the challenge was there was non-response. There was, the makeup of the electorate changed so much in 2016 that they were modeling to a wrong electorate, right? So I think that all of that is part of the problem. I don't know. The caution light on this for me, and we were talking about this on Slack, was that our friends at Split Ticket, that analysis they did of the Nate Cohn poll, right? Which is the polls, the New York Times polls show Biden +4. With people who've ever voted in a midterm or special election, and Trump +10 with people that only vote for in general elections. So that was like a flashing red light. And again, that now you can overinterpret that, but I think that is the major caution when you look at this Democratic win streak.
Wasn't it also, Sebastian? Maybe you can check this too. I think it might have been Trump +10 among people who have either never voted or only voted in presidential elections.
This is right.
And again, so you're saying, okay, so they've never voted before, but maybe they'll vote this time, maybe they won't. And again, who knows, right? It is certainly true that you can expect Republicans to do better in a general than and you can expect the down ballot Republicans to really outperform right? Because the down ballot Republicans are going to get all of those people who are non-traditional Trump voters who are brought in just for the first time to do that. Plus, they'll get a fair number of red dogs who are going to vote at the Biden at the top of the ticket and then, check the box for the Republican who's their guy or their gal in their district. So, yes.
I just know that if your name is Mike Lawler, who's the normie Republican in the district over, I was watching the CNN coverage and he was on talking about how Maisie Phillips was just absolutely going to win this, no question. And I think he's in trouble. Can
I make a point? This is a great point to bring up. Will ever, sometimes I feel like we want this, right? So I'm always like, am I pushing for what my priors want, or am I accurately assessing the political landscape? And I think in this case, it's both. It's like all of these Republican political consultants kept saying, like, you have to act like Maisie Phillip did, or however you say her name. And you have to act like Mike Lawler does, which is vote with take these votes on Mayorkas, to like swallow all the Trump stuff. No, don't only softly criticize him. And all that has led to is loss after loss after loss after retirement to these people in these districts. And so could not somebody try? I feel like I've been saying the same thing for 9 years. You don't have to be Tim. Okay, you don't have to troll Donald Trump at every possible opportunity and ask when the last time he saw his dick was and call him a rapist and all that. But could we try? Shouldn't the Mike Lawless of the world be looking at that special election last night and being like, man, maybe I shouldn't have voted to impeach Alejandro Mayorkas. Maybe I should take a few opportunities to distance myself from the party. And maybe there's a middle ground here where you can run, a campaign that has a little bit more integrity and dignity and truth to it, that without sacrificing, obviously are you going to really lose? Are those, at the end of the day, are those MAGA people really not going to vote for you? I don't know. I think there's a lot more room to distance yourself from MAGA if you're a candidate like Lawler. And for some reason, he's taking this Republican consultant conventional wisdom that you got to ride with Trump, which has just led them to disaster now for 5 straight elections.
Well, Suozzi's pitch was, I work with people on both sides of the aisle to get things done, which is also the Biden pitch. Right. And, I listened to your focus group with Joe Perticone, our buddy, and there were a lot of, this was all about Congress. And a lot of Trump people who are talking about, we need people who are going to get stuff done. Now, I thought to myself that this is there's a revealed preference versus a voiced preference aspect to this. But they are voicing the preference that they want something done, right? There's one woman who's like, why aren't they doing anything about healthcare costs? And I was like, there's a president who has done something about healthcare costs right now. He passed a whole bunch of legislation about this. This is why insulin prices have been capped. And I wonder if maybe these people are, in a weird way, not a lot of them, but maybe 2% of them are reachable on stuff like that. Suozzi did okay by saying, look, I get stuff done.
I'm so glad you brought up the focus group pod with Joe Perticone. It has sort of a boring title because it's about Congress, but I want you people to go listen to this one because it's super interesting. And the reason that it's super interesting is actually, JVL, I don't even think it's revealed preference versus stated preference. I think they state both preferences. The craziest thing about these voters, these were Trump voters who followed Congress, they knew who their congressperson was, and they tended to be, we were screening for districts where they had kind of a MAGA performative person. Yeah,
Gates
and so it's
MTG.
Like Andy Biggs's district and MTG's district and Gates's district. But what was so interesting is people would say in one breath, why can't they get anything done? And then in the other breath, they would say, I do not want them to compromise. We want them to fight, right? And so it is they have detached the mechanism for getting things done, which is compromise and negotiation from the outcome, which is that things get done, right? They want the outcome, but they will not use they eschew the mechanism to get there. And they also said, they also be derisive about the idea that it's a circus. They'd be like, it's just such a mess and they're always yelling at each other and that's so stupid. But also my favorite things that they've done are impeach Biden, So on one hand, they condemn the performative, but also demand the performative. And I think this is, and I don't disagree with Tim's point about Lawler, but I do wonder if it's just getting super impossible for candidates like Lawler. Like, there's a reason that Mike Gallagher is tapping out, right? Is that they don't know how to walk this line. You punch
But
Trump
they're
in the
not
nose.
trying.
That's true.
They're not trying.
That's true. No, there's no way for us to game this because nobody's really done it, except for like Liz or somebody.
Yeah, but Liz went. I'm just thinking, isn't there? Maybe not. Right? It's our favorite. The axiom for our friend Michael Wood that I wrote about. It's like eventually you have to choose. You either go full MTG or full Liz or full Newsmax or full Liz was his line. And maybe that's right. Maybe that's true that you end up there. But there has not really seemed to be anybody that fits in the Gallagher kind of mold that tries to do the. Remember when Trump first went in and they said we're going to call balls and strikes. I'd like to see that. I'd like to see somebody call some strikes, and see how that turns out. Okay, maybe they turn into Liz eventually. Maybe that leads them to death. But it would be interesting to see somebody give it a shot, because if nobody gives it a shot here in the next 2 years, we're going to end up with an entire Congress full of, Lauren Boeberts and Matt Gaetzes, which might be where we're headed anyway.
Which is where we're headed. I tweeted something. Because I was just thinking about how, because I was watching, Abigail Spanberger, and I'm watching Alyssa Slotkin's race. She's running for Senate. There's this class, this very impressive class, that also included some squad folks. And the squad folks got all the attention. But there was like this really incredible 2018 class of legislators on the Dem side that were incredibly moderate, that won in swingy districts. And it was a lot of women who were like CIA analysts and helicopter pilots.
Cheryl.
Yeah, it's Mikey Sherrill, it's Alyssa Slotkin, it's Abigail Spanberger, and there's more. There's a bunch of them. And there's dudes too. I always say the women's names because they're the ones that impress me the most. But and now you got Josh Shapiro. When the Biden-Trump smoke clears eventually, you're going to look around and you're going to see a Republican Party that has been just absolutely brain drained, right? And the Mike Gallaghers are gone. Everybody that you think of who's like a serious person, they are gone. But even like a Kevin McCarthy, like they're out. And on the Democratic side, they've been growing this crop of congressional leaders who are now running for Senate, running for governor. Like Abigail Spanberger is running for governor of Virginia. She's very likely to be the next governor of Virginia, which means that they're going to have this enormous class to join the Jared Polises and the Warnocks, who are already governors, Whitmer, that are governors in swing states, that are normie, pragmatic. And the Republicans are going to be just like filled and replete with psychopaths.
Will that matter, though? And I'm not trying to be like a jerk about this, but I mean it very seriously. Will it matter? Because the Republican voters have decided, like they voted with their feet. They don't want Pragmatic. They don't want the Mike Gallaghers of the world.
No, but Democrats do.
Right, no, Democrats do. But
and
what I'm saying, but ultimately at the end of the day, when it comes to elections, like we're so gerrymandered and... Like maybe
I think it matters in the sense. I think where Sarah's going to. Tell me I'm wrong, Sarah. I think it matters in the sense of it's a rebuttal to the snapback people, right? That it's like the folks that the people that the Democrats have gained that turned out to vote for Tom Suozzi, that in the past had voted for Republicans. When the smoke clears, there's some of them that are like, hey, I'm still I've got this little Republican, this little elephant in the back of my brain. I'm like, we'll just see, and then I'll go back, and it's kind of like. There won't be anybody left for them to go back to. And I think that it will solidify the realignment. I think it will matter in that sense. It won't matter in the sense that like the Republican Party is dead and the earth is salted and what I mean? It's not that. It's just that I think it's going to solidify the realignment of the Trump years.
I also think, though, it's going to solidify I think it's going to take a long time, right? We're like, it's both a chess game and like turning the Titanic, but so much of the voter sentiment is like fumes of the past parties. And so it's going to take a while, but at some point, people are going to look up and say, oh, the new crop of Democrats are pretty normal. They are not socialists. They're not, crazy people. Whereas the Republicans, there's nobody else to point to anymore to be like, but this person's still normal. Like Mitt Romney's still there. No, he's not. Like they're all gone. Yeah. And you've got a pretty normal Democratic Party overall. This is why I think it's very important that people get rid of Gavin Newsom as soon as possible and start elevating these other people.
Just one quick sentence on this. And it was Mark Wayne Mullen, the senator from Oklahoma, said last night, pointed out that none of the Republican senators under 55 voted for the aid package. And I thought it was an interesting kind of self-own kind of, but like his point was like, this is where the party's moving. And my point's like, yeah, that's where the party's moving. And so,
Yes.
it's true in the Senate. Yeah.
All right. Tim, word from our sponsor?
Yes, fume. I thought we had another topic. Have you guys ever tried to break a bad habit and felt like you're climbing Mount Everest in flip-flops? Trust me, I've been there too. I've had a few bad habits. But here's a breath of fresh air, Fume. It's not about giving up, it's about switching up. Fume takes your habit and simply makes it better, healthier, and a whole lot more enjoyable. Fume is an innovative, award-winning flavored air device. It does just that. Instead of vapor, Fume uses flavored air. Instead of electronics, Fume is completely natural. And instead of harmful chemicals, Fume uses delicious flavors. You get it. It's a habit you're free to enjoy, and it makes replacing your bad habit easy. Your Fume comes with an adjustable airflow dial. I got it right here. And it's designed with movable parts and magnets for fidgeting, giving your fingers a lot to do, which is helpful for de-stressing and anxiety while breaking your habit. Don't know if you've noticed this, but I'm a little bit of a fidgeter myself on the podcast. Somebody called me out the other day because I was fidgeting with my daughter's princess toy, and it was noticed when I was like waving my hands on the screen. And so, now I've got another little device to play with when I'm here, and Fume has a bunch of different flavors for you. So start off your year right with the good habit by going to tryfume.com/level. Tryfume, FUM.com/level, and getting the Journey Pack today. Fume is giving listeners of this show 10% off when they use the code LEVEL to help make starting the good habit that much easier.
Sarah, we had a show last week without you, and it was great.
I listened to it.
Not as great as it would have been with you, but I feel like we have to give the people your response to the big stuff, which is the Robert Hur report about Joe Biden, the well-meaning elderly gentleman, and then to Bill Kristol's bomb on how gotta get Biden out of there.
Can I just say, before we get Sarah's advice, before we
these.
get to Sarah, can I just say, people sometimes, like, you're starting you have a media company, and it's like, we have critics, like, you guys are grifters, you're just giving your people what you want, and here we go, and Charlie retires, and it's like, okay, and it's like, Bill Kristol is going to take over the newsletter, and I said this to him, I was like, he could have picked any topic in the world for his first newsletter, and his first newsletter is, hey there, Biden lovers, I want to kick him off stage, and we're going to replace him with an imaginary person, and everybody in the comments is like, what is happening? And so, if we're running a comfort food / new grifting news outfit, maybe would have, the editor, the publisher maybe might have told Bill to start on a different note, maybe something a little less controversial. But no, that's not how we do it here.
Definitely not. And also, here's the thing is, reading that, I talk to Bill about this all the time. I know what he thinks. I express my belief in his wrongness on a regular basis on this. And so, speaking of media companies, lots of them, everybody sits around and agrees on everything. He and I have thought about this, like, with elevated voices on more than one occasion. Just out of strategic difference. Here's the thing. He makes this. Did you guys talk about this? I listened to while I was falling asleep. You guys didn't talk about this because this came out after, right? Whether or not we think Biden should step aside.
Right? I talked about it on Monday with Bill and AB, and JVL talked about it with AB. Maybe we didn't do it on last week's side. It's hard to know. Every day is a lime here.
I did it in the triad. I don't expect. I'm glad that you listened to the next level while you were gone, but I don't expect you to have read any of the newsletters that I wrote every single day.
No, I did. I read your. You didn't so much push back as like pick a different topic that was pro Biden. You didn't take it on sort of straight on, which is fine. It was nice not to go nuclear back on the first day. But here's the thing that if Biden were to step aside, the flaw. This is remember when we were on stage with Carville. Carville also subscribes to this theory of Joe Biden steps aside, boom, we get the centrist Democrat ticket of our dreams. Mitch Landrew's just there. The Whitmer Shapiro ticket emerges. They're not currently running states as governors. Here's what happens. If Joe Biden steps aside, there are two possibilities, and only two. One, his current vice president, Kamala Harris, becomes the nominee, and she is less popular and defeated. If you even assume that Joe Biden's going to get defeated, whatever Joe Biden's going to do, she's going to do 5 points worse.
Oh, maybe 2.
Sorry.
2 points. I don't know about 5.
Okay.
Oh, whatever.
Okay.
Hypothetical. There's hypothetical 1. Either 2 or 5 points worse than Biden. What's the second door, Sarah? Is it a pony?
The second door is a man named Gavin Newsom, who has been waiting for this moment his whole life. And what he thinks is this is why he debated DeSantis.
You can't even remember his name anymore, can you?
I know. They're gone so fast.
Ron
DeSantis. So sorry. Thanks for playing.
Can I give you door number 3? Can I give you door number 3 for your answer? Because there is one other option. 1968 on the convention floor in Chicago, where there are Gaza protesters like tackling Gavin Newsom while he comes on stage, and then Jamal Bowman goes up and says, "I want," and then so we're on to ballot 9. That's door number 3. That's also out there.
Yeah, I'm gonna spit out my tea. This like the gap between Biden stepping down and like we get fantasy ticket of our dreams that definitely beats Trump. Guys, no. This idea of like Biden is indeed old. He is only 10 years younger than the number of indictments Donald Trump has. Okay, that is a lot of years.
I thought you were going to say he's only 10 years younger than the wheel. I was like, I wonder what was invented 91 years ago.
81. 91 is the number of indictments. So he is. And listen, and it would have been great if they had done this particular scenario a year ago, 9 months ago. But the idea that like Gretchen Whitmer just launches an intact presidential campaign. Also, by the way, you know what? This idea that everybody's going to run against the first female African-American, like, they're wrong. Cory Booker one time said, he was asked why he, something about running against Kamala Harris, and he was like, all the women in my life would disown me. Like, everybody knows, like, you are risking the reason that it's Biden. Like, there are reasons. There are reasons that it's Biden. Just incumbency. It is the fact that he has 100% name identification. It's that his record's actually pretty good. Is he too old? He is. But, like, they're both old. And then, like, one has 91 indictments and was also a psychopath and is also mismanaged the pandemic last time. Like, sorry, you have to be able to make that case. And I think it is so weird the way and this is not about Bill. This is a different genre of person. But the number of sort of anti types who spend all their time talking about Biden and Biden being too old and Democrats walking off a cliff are just ignoring the fact that over on the Republican side, Donald Trump has an actual primary opponent who's a totally normal Republican. Totally normal. And they're choosing that they're not spending any time trying to talk people into voting for Nikki Haley or out of voting for Donald Trump. No. Everybody's lecturing the Democrats on the incumbent president. And the thing is, like, I'm open to that plenty. But I think there are plenty other, this idea that it's just like Biden steps aside, things happen, boom, great outcome is something I disagree with vociferously.
Sarah, this is how the engine of our politics works these days. Everybody works from the assumption that only Democrats have agency. And only Democratic politicians can make hard choices that might make their base upset. Only Democratic voters can be asked to make decisions which might not benefit them or might not serve their own prior, policy preferences or goals. And on the Republican side, like, the base just has to vote for Trump. Donald Trump has to be the way he is. He's a force of nature, right? And you can't expect Republicans to vote against him because he's been indicted 91 times. And in fact, everybody should have known that him being indicted would have made those voters just like him more. It's really weird, isn't it? Isn't it tantamount to saying that 40% of the country is insane or dangerous or both?
Yeah. And look, I'm not going to blame the media, but I do want to just stay also on this sort of asymmetry. This is just judging from my own life. Okay, I was down and out for a few days. I was kind of off the grid, and it happened to be the day this Her report came out. Please try again. And when it did, my phone blew up with reporters being like, "Well, what do your focus groups say about this? Like, what?" And I'm like, and I couldn't respond. I was just like, I was indisposed. But I was like, in my head, going, this Her report is not teaching people that Joe Biden is old. Like, no one has missed. These voters are not like, oh, you don't say. It's in the report that he's elderly. And not always, that's nothing people can't see with their own eyes. And so I didn't think that was like people who, I watched Frank Luntz out there. This is a disaster for Joe Biden. And I was like, no, his age is his most significant liability. Somebody was raising his most significant liability. And like, that's just what's going to happen through this race. And okay. But the point was, I got so many calls about it. Also, while I was indisposed, Donald Trump said that if NATO, which is by the way not the way NATO works, but NATO should pay its bills, or Russia can go ahead and give them.
He would encourage Russia.
Encourage them. Do you know how many times on my phone learning about that? 0. And do you know why? Because people know the question, and this is to your point, Jigo, the question of, but won't Republican voters, what matter to them that Donald Trump is saying invade Europe? Russia can invade Europe and America won't do anything about it? And the answer is, no, of course those voters don't care. It's a fait accompli. Everybody just like says, oh no, Republican voters don't care that much about this. And so they don't ask. And it's like Joe Biden lives in a world where everybody's like, oh, somebody acknowledged that he's old. We must talk about this a lot. Versus Trump said the most insane thing with real geostrategic implications, like implications for NATO, for the world order. And everyone's like, yawn. That's my rant.
That's a good one.
Hard to argue.
I like it. While we're on
quick fun fact from Sebastian, Stereo Records and the first prototype drive-in theater are both 10 years older than Joe Biden. So that's a little fun fact.
Yeah, well, there you go. There were no hi-fis back when he was born.
Dude, the same age as Donald Trump's indictments.
There you go. Better framing. Thank you, message guru.
On the primary that is still happening, because Republicans, again, they are choosing to do this. In fact, they could stop choosing to do it right now. Right now, they could stop. Donald Trump decided this weekend to make fun of Nikki Haley's husband, who is deployed with the National Guard, right? Or is it Djibouti? Is it the National Guard of the Reserves or what?
Horn of Africa, Djibouti. Anyway, that's cool. It's kind of like I like soldiers who weren't captured or something, and everybody's just like, sure, like this is fine. He's doing so much winning. He's even doing winning of the military, and I don't know what you guys thought about this. Is Nikki Haley going to wind up doing a Ted Cruz where she gets super indignant on her husband's behalf, and then we're going to get the picture of her making the phone call? Is that where we're headed, or is she being given enough so that she could say, no, I'm not going to do it, right? And not look like she's being a petulant person, but look like she's doing just said, like, no, I'm not going to be attacked like this, and then go and help the guy who we all know is dangerous. Sarah?
I have it I was arguing about this with my team earlier. I'm at 65-35. She endorses. I think there's a 35% chance she doesn't endorse. What do you guys put it at? Jim, do you put it at 100%?
I'd put 3.5.
3.5.
Yeah, I'd say 10% less, or 10% of your
0.5.
0.5.
0.5 is what I better. I mean, also, we do have a new win for poll out today showing Trump at plus 36 in South Carolina. So he's now ahead more in South Carolina than he was before Nikki's tremendous second place victory in New Hampshire. That's great. I don't quite know what to do with that. Also, do you guys have thoughts on the? I mean, it's really. It's just very hard to understand.
Can I just talk about the dark thing about it before we get into the Nikki Haley analysis?
Yeah, go ahead.
And this is over on the Bulwark pod. I went at it with Dean Phillips today, which people should check out if they haven't yet. And
Your show's great, by the way.
Thank you. This was a fundamental disagreement that me and Dean had, where he is of the view that that Democrats and the media and everybody should be nicer and more considerate to MAGA voters, and that's how that you win, and should be more thoughtful. And I'm like, okay, I'm happy with being nice to MAGA voters, but like we also have to accept reality. And like when you talk about revealed preference, like not everybody, not every single MAGA voter, and I'm not saying that they're cartoon villains. I'm saying that they have revealed their preference of we like it when Donald Trump insults people's wives and husbands. We like it when he is the alpha male, the Twitter alpha male that puts down somebody that is serving the country, even though he, lied and pretended like he had bone spurs and couldn't go serve the country. They like it when he calls somebody's wife ugly. They like it. Like there is another group of people of MAGA voters that don't like it that much and vote for him anyway. That's a separate moral and ethical question. We can have Pete Wayner or somebody on to dig through. But there is a big plurality, majority, big percentage of the Republican base that likes this. And so so here we are 9 years later, and it's and Nikki Haley is doing the same thing that we did on the Jeb campaign when Donald Trump made fun of Kalumba. Her playbook is exactly the same. I'm outraged. How dare you? That you don't know any. This is un-American, right? And she should do that. That's the natural response. But it's like if you're thinking that response is going to win people over rather than push them into Donald Trump's arms, you do not understand what the Republican voters have revealed that they want, and they want meanness, cruelty, an asshole, a piece of shit. That's what they want. So that's where we're at on this. I don't like how Nikki responds to that. Then I think is another question, a psychological question about her and about her career aspirations and all that. But I think it's important to just say that clearly, because even now, like people aren't saying that on CNN right now while we're doing media criticism. Like it's like people are still, after all this time, reluctant to say that, right? Like you still get the pundit roundtables where it's like, might this hurt Donald Trump? Might the Nikki Haley thing hurt him? And they don't really think that he's going to lose because of it. But like, could it hurt him on the margins? Could it help her get some momentum? And it's like, no, they like this. Could it maybe hurt him with 0.5% of voters in Georgia, of military veterans in Georgia who are swing voters? God willing. God willing.
But even that's an open question. Yeah, it's I wonder when you talked with Dean, did you ask him about Merrick Garland? So Merrick Garland, as you mentioned with James Carville and the Tuesday Show, Merrick Garland has really bent over backwards to be as unbelievably fair and impartial as possible. He waited for forever to appoint a special counsel. In fact, only did so once Donald Trump declared that he was running for president, and has created a level of insulation on the federal Trump prosecutions that is the definition of fairness. I don't get the sense that MAGAs are saying, well, look, this we of course defend Donald Trump and we think he's innocent, but we do recognize that Merrick Garland has done us a solid, and we appreciate his integrity. I don't get the sense that that's a thing that happens ever. No?
I haven't seen it on Fox. I've been trying to watch a little more Fox, and so I can't say that I watched 24 Hours. So maybe somebody said it on there, but I haven't heard it yet.
Yeah. I don't think that there's a lot of credit to be.
They didn't have gained. There was an interesting question. I think this is a different question than kind of doing the outrage thing about this. And I somebody sent this to me the other day. Like, I know that we're supposed to be the norms crowd here, and it's like it's supposed to be good that Merrick Garland did the right thing. Appointed a special prosecutor. It was a Republican special prosecutor. Like, at some point, if this is only one side that's doing this, like, should Merrick Garland have had a special prosecutor? Should Joe Biden have sat down with this guy? Donald Trump didn't sit down with Mueller. Like, if the threat is so great from the right, like from Donald Trump, like, should we be giving them rope to follow these norms? I know that the answer is yes, we should, but man, isn't that something worth thinking about and discussing?
Sarah?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I don't think you don't want to live in a world, right, where everybody just says that the norms, but not even just the norms, but like the bedrock stuff, like when you are subpoenaed and asked to sit down with the special prosecutor, you do it. I agree. Like, Trump didn't do it, but that is part of why Trump is an unfit. And I don't want to see Biden or Democrats mimicking what Republicans are doing, because then there's nothing left, right? Like, the goal is to defeat Republicans for behaving this way and reestablish the norms, reestablish the sense that you live by these laws. I don't know.
I knew you were going to say that. I put it on a platter for you to be the conscience of the podcast. But it's at some point it's like, why did Merrick Garland and Joe Biden give them this? Like, given the election. The weird thing to me on this one is this was right after October 7th that he sat down, and it did seem like 5 hours. I don't know. Have you ever sat and talked for 5 hours? Sorry, bro. I got a call with the King of Jordan. Can we do this in 90 minutes?
No, I'm with Sarah on this. You got to hold the norms. I
think in part they felt like their whole deal was like, we're doing everything right? Like, we have to establish a contrast between what Trump did, which is he took the documents and then when they asked for them back, said no, and
and we can't martyr him.
Everything else,
right? That was the other thing. We can't martyr him.
And so Biden knows, man, I've screwed up here. Like, one of the biggest things, because he did. That was a problem. This is like down in Georgia. What's her name? Having the relationship with the guy who's the prosecutor, Fonnie Willis. Biden's got the documents and he's all over the place. He's showing them to his biographers. He shouldn't have done that. And it's extra bad in this moment. And so, like, what did he have to do? It was his obligation to clean it up.
And he did.
To say, like, and he was telling the truth. And that's why they didn't bring any charges. I will say, of course, it was dirty pool to have this guy then, like, knock Joe Biden around on his cognitive abilities. I'll just say, again, when people are like, oh, this is devastating, I'm like, I don't know that pointing out the single, like, Joe Biden's biggest liability that everyone knows is his biggest liability and the voters see themselves is like the end of the world. Changer.
Yeah.
It's
like a game continuer.
Yeah, I had some advice for him. I don't know, you probably didn't read it, Sarah, but some advice for the administration on how to handle this. People
I read it.
Right to the triad.
I know answered on it. That's great advice.
Yeah, thank you. Tim, happy end of Mardi Gras.
Yeah, Mardi Gras is over.
Do you wish somebody an end of Mardi Gras? What is?
I don't know.
I don't even
Tyler
understand.
is.
I don't understand.
I didn't get to do the full Mardi
Gras.
Gras like Tyler did because I'm just out here churning out this content for all of our listeners who I love. Tyler's pretty down today. He's got the Sunday scare, the post Mardi Gras scaries, the Ash Wednesday scaries. But I've been kind of slowly landing the plane for a little while now. But I did have an observation that somebody pointed out to me that I thought was worth discussing kicking around on this podcast. You remember how you had the skeleton index for how the economy was looking last Halloween?
That's
People
right.
had these massive skeletons. I got to tell you, having experienced Mardi Gras, we are living in a time of decadence and abundance in this country. And I have to just reject the notion that people are turning to Trump because they're living in hard times. Because we're here in Louisiana. Okay, obviously some of the people in Mardi Gras are visitors from blue country, but there are plenty of Donald Trump voters that are at the various Mardi Gras festivities. Some of them are a little bit gayer and more blue tinged than others. But let me tell you, it is. Have you been? I know Jivia hasn't. Have you been to Mardi Gras, Sarah? I'd come and kind of partied with my friends. I'd never done like the going to all the parades. These parades. Like the amount of stuff that they throw out, it's like 8 Christmases in once. Downstairs in my house right now, we have an entire room full of just crap that Toulouse has accumulated. Swords and dolls and balls and footballs and beads and beads and beads and whistles and giant toothbrushes and this thing that's behind me and this plunger that I got right here now. And it's just stuff. And they just throw it to you. And these parades go on for days. Like, I'd only been to the one Mardi Gras parade. These parades go on for days, 9 days. Like, if you took somebody in a time machine from the Great Depression and landed them at the Tux parade, which is one of the pre-Mardi Gras parades, not, the prime time, and you sat them down there, like, they would think that you had taken them to a future utopia beyond their wildest imaginations. Like, the amount of free stuff that just gets thrown out there. And so the costumes, people are in these costumes that cost hundreds upon hundreds of dollars. More, it keeps going. To ride on these floats, you've got to pay $5,000 to ride on these floats. If there was one float, there were 10 million. I mean, there are parades for 12 days, and everybody that gets to ride is paying thousands of dollars. And then it ends last night, and this is when I decided I had to discuss it on the podcast, at the Rex. The final parade is the Rex parade. And then it ends at a Rex ball, which they air on local television here. And this ball, the women at this ball are wearing $50,000, $60,000, $80,000 dresses. The people that are walking in, it's like, and next is the great-great-grandson of Zebediah Jones Smith, who was the king of Rex in 1882, and he's right now a junior at Ole Miss studying digital marketing. And James walks through, and it's like, the amount of just sheer abundance at this ball, and I got to tell you, just being a judger and somebody who knows politics and watched Sarah's focus groups, if Donald Trump didn't have a majority at that ball, I would eat my hat. I'll tell you this. Maybe it wasn't a 90%, but I bet he had a majority at this ball. It was very uptown. It was very white. It was very old Louisiana, and I'm just wondering if you like Donald Trump and want to make some arguments for nationalism or you think that we should be an anti-immigrant country now, okay. But after Mardi Gras, I have a new Mardi Gras index, which is I will not accept that this country is in such economic peril that we need Donald Trump. I will not accept it.
People who have to eat like vegetarians now, Tim, because they can't afford meat, and people who can't even drive 20 miles to their Meemaw because of the price of gas under Joe Biden's America. It's like the Great Depression. It is like, as people have told Sarah week in and week out, the worst it has ever been in America.
The Superdome was filled for Endymion. Convention halls, you can't get a hotel room. It's like, where are these people coming from? It's not all the 1%.
Well, I got some good news for you, Tim.
What's that?
Guess who's on the focus group this week? Boom! I'm coming loaded. Maybe I could moderate a focus group one of these days, Sarah. Because what I was thinking, when I was listening to the person in the focus group with Joe talk about how what she really wanted was some movement on healthcare, what I would, if I were the moderator, I would say, oh, you mean the way Donald Trump did when he was president, he capped insulin prices. Because that's a good thing, right? And I'm sure Miss Cletus would have said, "Oh, yeah, sure thing. Yeah, that's why we love her." And then I could have said, "Oh, I'm sorry. That's what Joe Biden did."
You'll never moderate a focus group, number one. Number two, I get this comment all the time. I was looking through the YouTube comments, and people are always like, "Why doesn't Sarah push back on them? Why doesn't she?"
No, I'm not saying you should. I'm not saying you should. Of course you should.
I'm going to respond to all these people who seem to think it is my responsibility to push back on things that people are incorrect about. And the answer is, I am not trying to convince the 9 people in my focus group of anything.
Correct.
I'm trying to learn from the 9 people in my focus group so I can go convince, 9% of GOP swing voters not to vote for Trump. And so you got to understand what people are. But fighting with each group is not productive. That's not the
I
rule.
agree. I am not suggesting that you should do that. I'm not even suggesting that you should let me do it, except as an inducement to our champagne tier subscribers. And for those people, we can conduct a special focus group where I'm the moderator.
And maybe instead of that, we come up with a different program. Where the same people that go out and recruit the focus group people are recruiting people, and they say, "Hey, we're not recruiting you for a focus group. Actually, we're trying to find lean Trump voters, and we have a little project that we're trying to do. We're going to tape you, and we're going to have someone try to convince you to change your mind, and then we can rotate through our moderators and see who does
like
the best
the
job.
IQ squared debates.
Like a combination.
At the end of the show,
competition.
These people then tell us, did we change their mind or not?
Yeah, that could be a fun game.
So I like this. Actually, they'll tell us, well, this is the problem, is that they'll say, maybe, yes, you did, or no, you didn't, depending on whether they're a stubborn person or an accommodating person. What you want to know is then who did they ultimately vote for? And did you cause a backlash effect by getting in their face and making them feel crappy about themselves and stupid? Or did you do what is because the thing is that when you do persuasion work is not actually about getting somebody to change their mind. It is about giving them permission to do a thing they already kind of want to do. They already know Donald Trump's a jerk. They don't like him, but their tribal impulses make them want to vote for him, right? They're on the team. It's hard to break from the team. So what are you doing? You're trying to build them a new team. Say, no, lots of people like you do this other thing. It's permission. It's not really like change your mind.
So you're not supposed to do what I would do.
Okay.
See, this is why I think maybe I would not be. Maybe it could be a good cop, bad cop thing where I'm the first person to come in to persuade them and I'm the bad cop. And then Tim or you come in after me and say, boy, that jerk.
Start hitting people with phone books.
No. Then you say that jerk right here. That's why I always voted Republican for me because I did. But, I've come to realize that I can't let jerks like that force me through negative polarity to, right? See?
So we'll workshop it.
Good cop, bad cop. We'll figure this out. All right. Guys, good show. Long show. Sarah, welcome back. Hey, guys, if you are in the D.C. area next week, Friday, February 23rd, or that Saturday, or that Sunday, the 25th, come by the Principal's First Conference. Sebastian will put the link in the show notes. I think there might still be a ticket or two left. There also might not be, in which case I'll feel really bad about telling you to come by.
Big turnout. Big turnout for the event.
Yeah.
Must be for our panel, Gino.
I will be there for 60 minutes. It's going to be fantastic. Quick in and out for me, but everybody else will be there for all the other time. And it's good people. It's good people. It's fellowship. People are really into fellowship. Ash Wednesday,
There's going to be a
great
Bulwark
day for
sponsored
fellowship.
happy hour.
Yes, I can't wait to not be at that. And
I'll be there.
And Sarah will be there. That's all you need. All right, guys, we'll see you next week.